Good afternoon, young warriors. The mission. We are in the pursuit, the relentless pursuit of perfection, with the expectation of attaining personal excellence. Now, last time we met, we spoke about habits. We're going to do the same thing today. They're that important. It was Abraham Lincoln who said, if I had 8 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend 6 hours sharpening my axe. Think of the tree. The chopping down of it is personal excellence. Sharpening the axe are your habits. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tell a story. This was probably, I read about this interview, this was probably one of the most influential things on a number of areas, on how it affected me personally. What it was a man who was 100 years old. He was a centenarian who had just tremendous success. He was well respected. He was loved and admired by his family. And I guess to maybe top things off or to help, he was worth a couple of $1 million or a couple of $1 billion. But it was the honor that gets my attention. So the whole process for the interview began where the gentleman that interviewed him was able to secure his contact information, his number, and he called him. And he arranged an interview. Not because of a self-serving purpose. In fact, this old man, he wanted nothing to do with that. The only way he secured the interview was when he told the old man, he says, but this is something you could leave as a legacy. And we're talking about your secret. What have you learned in 100 years that have amassed this kind of success? Again, it's the honor. But, a couple of $1 billion doesn't hurt either. So the interview was set, and there was only one stipulation, and that was that the old man would write down the vital keys on what secured this massive success. So the day of the interview finally came, and the gentleman drove up to this man's estate, and he was led in. And this is a man that interviews hundreds of people a year, and he's not really moved by many interviews, but this one he was. So he met with this man in his library, and they made their small talk. And what they found out was this old man was an immigrant from Russia, and he came to this country and he was forced to live with friends of their family. And this was going through the Depression. He was forced to work. So rather than finish school, he didn't even get to start, let alone complete high school. He was forced to live with this family, and he was forced to work. That's important to remember. I'm going to come back to that. So the interview progresses, and it finally gets to where the key point comes, and the man that's interviewing him says, did you bring the papers? Did you bring the notes? Did you bring the items that were vital to your success? And the old man said yes. Reaching into the pocket of his jacket, he pulled out a single sheet of paper. Not even a completed sheet of paper. Only about half of it was filled out. And he says, I've got everything you need right here. Stunned. The interviewer sitting there, and he didn't know what to say. But see, this old man, in his wisdom, he understood that. And here's where he made one of the largest points that's ever affected me, that's ever influenced me. And he said, see, that's the problem. I could share what's on this sheet of paper with any young man, any young woman who is aspiring to excel, who is pursuing excellence, and they would mistakenly believe that they understood it, and they would disregard it, thinking there's more, there's complicated plans, there's tactics. Reading the sheet of paper, they spent 2 hours of the interview talking about the main topic on there. And here's my main point for today. There's only a few things that matter in any pursuit. I want to let that sink in. There's only a few things that matter in any pursuit. See, that's where our habits come into play. Because I believe that that's what this man was talking about. This man was talking about simple habits that were grounded in principle, in basics, in fundamentals, in the few things that when practiced with diligence will launch us onto what I say every time at the beginning of these talks is the landscape of personal excellence. Young warriors, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shoot out of here. And I'm going to give you 2 challenges. I made my main point. There's only a few things that matter in any pursuit. The first challenge is, and I hope you don't miss this, now obviously, what the old man said was huge. As far as most people, they will read something and they believe that they understand it, but they'll completely disregard it. I challenge you. Don't believe that you understand this and disregard it. But I want you to embrace it, and I want you to accept this first challenge. This first challenge is I want you, I don't care where you came from, whatever your station is in life, you can attain personal excellence. And if it means that you want to make $1 billion in $1, you know what? I believe you can do that too, and there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you secure your honor and character at the beginning of that, at the front end of that. Don't forfeit that. But regardless of your station in life, like the old man, I want you to learn how to discipline your disappointments. See, the one thing that I learned in this interview was this old man discussed. He said how he came upon this was his lack of education, that he felt he didn't have the brains. See, this was not a man that came from Harvard. He didn't have an MBA. He didn't have the silver spoon in his mouth. In fact, he thought he was stupid, using his words. And he just bought into the few things that he saw that men and women who were pursuing what he wanted were able to do and secure. He didn't question that. Simply put, he learned to discipline his disappointments. He was disappointed, and he thought that it was his biggest shortcoming was his lack of education, but he disciplined it and it became his biggest blessing. And the second thing, find the few things that matter. What we're going to do is we're going to come back next week, and we're going to talk about the importance of owning them, of mastering them. And I'm going to continue on with what I've learned with this man and others similar to him. Young warriors, I believe in you. I believe in you. And I know every time I talk about going out and slaying your dragons. This information, this main point, that only a few things matter, this is your sword. Anytime you pursue anything, any kind of a pursuit, as far as some kind of pursuit of personal excellence, is going to be met with adversity. You're going to fail. You're going to fail often. That's just the way life is. That's your dragon. What I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to meet these challenges that I just brought up today, as far as learning to discipline your disappointment and understanding that you know what, the success principles are simple. They're not complicated. trust that. And slay your dragon. I believe in you. Look, I'm new to this YouTube thing. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and like this page. Share it with others. Let's create a community. Let's create a community of like-minded people. And let's join arms. And let's slay our own dragons together, because I believe you can change this world. Until next time, have a great weekend, young warriors.